There are millions of Christians in the Matrix. What percentage? I don't know. I've come to believe it's at least 50%. Is that an overstatement, my good listener? Let me know what you think. You can email me at uncensoredunprofessor@gmail.com. But I think probably at least 50% of the church does not in much of any way have the mind of Christ. Congregations are caught in the matrix, unawares that they do reality they have values like the world spirit. And so my good friend Mark and I, like two prophets standing out in the wilderness eating locusts and wild honey, we're trying to wake and shake those with ears to hear, to turn hearts and minds to the Lord. So thank you for downloading the show. Thanks for wanting to go deeper into your faith. I am truly grateful. But then, before Mark and I get going with the conversation, I want you to know I've made an important decision. I'm choosing love. Yep, I'm choosing love. Why? Well, a few days ago, I watched the Chicago Bears versus the Los Angeles Rams. They played in a football game in the snow in Chicago. And when I first saw the back of Rams quarterback Matt Stafford, it said, "Choose love." And I was like, nah, not me. But then I saw the whole Rams team and the entire Chicago Bears team, and they all had "Choose Love" on the back of their helmets. And I went, you know what? Yes, both teams are right. They're both wearing "Choose Love" NFL helmets. Totes, yeah. And so today's show is born out of the entire sincere, devout, well thought through philosophy of the Choose Love movement. Today's show is brought to you born of love. Thanks for joining me, Mark. Great to have you here again on a wonderfully brisk 32-degree day.
It's great to be here, Ed. Thank you.
The only thing worse is my brother lives in Minneapolis, and when we were texting last night watching the football games, I told him it's 32 here, and he said, it's 5 degrees here, and it's going to get to -10 tonight.
I was 2 years in Minnesota when I was young. I still remember how cold it is. Oh, man.
So brutal. So we are in this long series on Christians in the Matrix, and we're not just doing this because it's an interesting topic, which it certainly is. I mean, human psychology, groupthink, systematic psychoses, how power works, how strategy and conniving works, all that's fascinating in its own right. Yeah. Mark and I decided to do this series, and welcome again, my listeners. We decided to do this series because we are truly heartbroken. We're truly concerned. We're truly grievous at how many Christians have not the mind of Christ. Yeah. Right? I don't know how particularly you were thinking it, but I'm just thinking there's so much of the church that is, I think, truly well-intended. Yeah. I'm not even questioning the motives. And really, I'm not even questioning the motives of, say, progressive Christianity. I think with all respect, they do mean to make people's lives better.
Yes.
But they are so unaware that they don't have the mind of Christ, but that not only are they making things far worse in the long run, but this concerns the destinies of people's souls is kind of where it's a terrible way to narrow it down. But I think finally we're talking about souls being destroyed or not.
You could take a misconception and then come to Christ, and you can take the scriptures to undo that, or you can Christianize your misconception.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing, there's an Americanized type of a Christianity. There's a trust in the system and the culture that's too accommodating and is not really scriptural. They may love the Lord and yet love the whole, accept so many of so much of the propaganda and lies of the system. And
Yeah.
it ought not, like James said, it ought not to be this way, brethren. you
Yeah.
know?
I wonder if Paul, well, he did. Even as in Galatians, he's already having to combat Christians who want to circumcise again,
Yeah.
right? They're
Yeah.
thinking, but we can take some of that Jewish stuff and run it through a Christian sieve and
Wow,
we'll be
yeah.
better off. And Paul's like, you need to mutilate your flesh before you go along with that,
Yes.
right? Because
Yeah.
he knows that something of the matrix is climbing in there and it's going to put a monkey wrench into the whole framing of Christianity.
He didn't praise that. He said, "You were doing well. Who hindered you?"
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't, well, and to our topic today, nice, which we're going to get to in a minute.
Yeah.
He didn't say, hey, be nice to
Yeah.
the Judaizers. He says, I wish that they'd circumcise themselves,
Yes. Yes.
right? Which,
Yeah.
if we put it in the vernacular, it probably wouldn't come out as very polite.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish that they would
Yeah.
themselves. Anyway, we're going to think about nice, but like I say, not only do we not want Christians to be in the matrix, but we want you guys who are wanting to think shrewdly, as shrewd like serpents and cunning like foxes for the sake of the kingdom, to be aware of when you're getting played or people you're conversing with have been played. So it kind of goes in that direction. But something happened this over the weekend that I told Mark I want to talk about because it's prevalent and because it won't get talked about in so many Christian gatherings, is a Southern Baptist church in St. Paul, Minnesota, was about halfway through their service when, I don't know if the agitators were already present or if they walked in, most of them with their phones on, so they were videotaping it. And they stood as a group in front between the congregation and the pastor. They stood at the bottom of the altar and started chanting against ICE and chanting against the church and chanting against Trump. I mean, all the normal stuff that you would expect, and being foul. And the worst of it was that on the videos, because there's about 7 or 8 of them already on X you can watch, the worst of them is that they would get in the face of an individual believer and say, hey, you're not a Christian, you don't support immigrants. Look at you, you're wearing a suit, so you're living a luxurious lifestyle, and you're a fake Christian, and you don't support the church. And the real church would support immigrants, right? Like Christianity was a social justice movement ever and not once. So it was a really, really ugly thing for its own sake. What I don't know when I saw it is, was this just a few really aggressive agitators, or how representative is it?
Yeah, hard to say, and that's why I wondered why a church. I think you mentioned maybe the pastor was
had
spoken.
said some favorable things, I guess. I don't know. I can't verify, but the agitators went after that specific church because the pastor had said some favorable things about ICE.
Yeah. Wow. I see it moving this direction. I hate to say that, but it's you've got probably paid agitators, but you've got a whole mass of propagandized people that are looking for a cause,
right, and
are easily hurted, and
right,
if they don't have a sense of morality in some ways, whatever the means is fine, including violence or intimidation.
Right.
And a lot of these people, it's not about mature discussion.
No.
They've said, no, I'm not worrying about that anymore, or it's hopeless, so we're just going to have to go to the next level.
No, that's really good. They're not, when they're shaming those individual church goers one-on-one, they're not trying to have dialogue. They're just, for all of their calls of we need to sit and listen to one another, they're just shouting and shaming the people, right?
Yes.
And I wonder if, as with Islam, where 80% of Muslims are not violent,
Mm-hmm.
They just want to live their lives and raise their families.
Yeah.
But when they're polled, they lean in favor of the jihadi violence.
Yeah.
So they themselves don't do it, but they favor it. And I wonder how many people in America would never, ever go into a church service like that and make arses of themselves on public for everyone to see, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's a certain cross-section of society that will have been cheering that on, and they're glad that it happened.
Yes.
And that actually goes places. Again, because I've studied European history, and I know the kinds of things that led into World War I and World War II and the revolution in Russia, the kind of worldview that was at stake and at play. It's you're talking about tipping points, right? Mm-hmm. And the people who wouldn't engage in that but who are cheering it on represent a tipping point in society where when this does blow up, they will do zero to stop it, but they'll also be like cheering it on and saying, we need to reshape our laws so that these people can be punished and appropriately dealt with.
You need a certain amount of people that are not even necessarily aggressive that say this is wrong. And if you don't have that, then it prevails.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
So I immediately reached out to my pastor and said, hey, watch this video. We need to think as a church about what we will do, because we've already thought through about what we'll do if a active shooter comes in, and we have a team there. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that we've ever, because how do you plan for everything? I don't know that we've thought about what will we do when a group of agitators come in and they just want to be obnoxious. Will we let them in the name of love? Mm-hmm. Because we want to show them the love of Jesus, will we just let them wreck the church service?
Yeah.
Or will we have a team that, as pleasantly as possible, escorts them out? Yeah. Who will call the police? Are the local police aware of these kinds of... Because in Minneapolis, the local police stood down. Mm-hmm. And they're not going, in all likelihood, neither they or any state officials will follow up with prosecuting those people.
Yeah.
Probably here in Idaho, those people will go to jail.
Yeah.
But the church still needs to think through, A, what do we do in such a moment? But B, the way you and I talk and think is, again, what is the church's posture vis-a-vis culture, society, and law? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So... we touched on this in last week's show. Does the church have the right to exist? Mm-hmm. Or should the church sacrifice all her rights? So we don't talk this way because we don't talk about American history or founding, but the founders set it up so the church could exist and thrive, even though they weren't setting up a church. Mm-hmm. But they set it up so the church could survive. And now for 250 years, the church hasn't had to think that through much. And I think now we're at the dawning of a new era where we have to go, okay, wait a minute. Does the church have the right to exist? Is it really the case that to be a Christian means that I immediately and totally give up all my rights?
Yeah.
Because to say that is to say, okay, so I'm giving up the rights of my children's possibility to worship and practice. Mm-hmm. I'm giving up my children's right to attend a private Christian school. If you say that, you're giving up the rights of a lot of things that will cause society to implode overnight.
Yes. This is when we spoke the other podcast about complacency. It's a classic example of it. We have this, let's coast and enjoy it, rather than when do we get in the fight to contend for it, to continue it, and is that in the spirit of Christ? And
right.
I see in the scriptures they didn't have any rights, and you're not going to hear a lot of scriptures about talks about rights. They were persecuted and glad if they weren't killed.
Right.
And the idea of defending rights that you didn't have anyway, it's foreign, but that doesn't mean the scripture doesn't really
That's exactly
mention
the case.
that.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, so we're not going to turn to, we have the 10 commandments. We're not going to turn to the 10 rights. Here's your 10 rights as granted by God. But we have what's called the biblical story. And we have that Exodus story.
Yeah.
Which is which has been used by slaves appropriately for all of human, for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
We have these stories in the Bible that show God favors liberty. God favors the fact that people can worship Him.
Yes.
God favors freedom of conscience, which is all through the Bible. God favors people being responsible moral agents. So you start to see all kinds of themes repeat, which the founders knew when they set up our country, that make it not only possible but necessary for there to be a Christian presence in the culture. And I'm afraid, no, I'm terrified that the church no longer knows how to speak in that kind of vocabulary.
Yes.
Truly, I'm grateful for every pastor faithfully serving the church. I'm happy they want to get the word out there by making public their own pods. But this show is about thinking through the Christian faith vis-a-vis all of reality, culture and politics included. And believe me, I know how crazy I am to think we can do that, or we should do that, to speak to culture and politics and values and life in the 21st century, because here in our setting, well, what am I? I must be cray-cray, you guys, but I believe that Western society is in a death spiral. I believe most cannot see that. Some don't want to acknowledge that. But to quote Professor Gad Sad, Western society's in a death spiral. And he went on to say, I don't think she has the courage. I don't think Western society has the courage to do what is necessary to pull her out of that spiral. Now, me, in Christ, I believe there's still hope. Me, by the power of the gospel and the Holy Spirit, I say there's still hope. Me, by the faithfulness, the salty faithfulness of the church, there's still hope. But I still see myself as kind of a voice crying in the wilderness. I'm one voice saying, hey, I've read the Bible. You guys, I've studied 20th century history. We're in the same spiral that Russia and Germany again, those kind of civilizational death spirals, we're in one of those. Is it too late again? No, it's not too late, but it is time to awaken. How? By talking, thinking, counseling, seeking God and godly wisdom. Isaiah in his first chapter put it like this: Israel does not know, my people do not understand. They're a sinful nation laden with iniquity, with children who deal corruptly. They have forsaken the Lord and have despised the Holy One of Israel. Yes, there are a few survivors. They are a shelter, but Sodom is an abomination. But oh, if you will repent, if you will cease your evil doings, learn to do good, seek justice, rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, like defend the unborn, plead for the widow, those who is oppressed by the system. So come now, let us reason together, let us argue it out, let us think it through. And the UU is a show where we're not afraid to both think it out loud and think it through about America as a nation and the church as a collective entity. Here at the UU, we know God cares about nations, cares about entire massive cultures and communities. God cares about the faithfulness of His own people. Back then it was Israel. Today it's the church. So do you want to support a show that is entirely out of the box? Do you want to support a show that talks about things almost no other Christian shows do? Go to Patreon, Patreon. Go to Patreon, make a $10, $20, $30, $100 per month pledge. Help me continue to provoke and edify and pester and encourage and shake some salt out on both America as a besieged by godlessness nation and on the church collective. Patreon, find the uncensored professor there, unprofessor there, make a pledge. Thank you so much. And if you'll do that, I'll give you a big evangelical side hug. Aww.
Yes. There's a passivity at best a timidity, a lack of confrontation, and I picture different forms of trusting God for certain things. Sometimes you can trust Him, and it's in His ballpark, like Moses standing at the Red Sea. It was hopeless. He was surrounded by the Egyptians, and the faith and trust was stand still and see the salvation of God. Appropriate because it was hopeless. But you've got other times where He's telling Joshua, go down into the battle and trust me to win the battle. And because it was an entirely different scenario.
Yeah.
And so I think about Paul. Remember, they were going to beat him, and he said, are you aware you're going to be beating a Roman citizen? He played that card, and it was logical. It's like, why wouldn't I? I do have rights as a Roman citizen.
A great example.
They're being removed. I don't have to be silent about this.
That's such a great example.
I think there's just times where you say, unlike a lot of those believers in the New Testament times, I have liberty here, at least somewhat. I want that to continue for me and my children. I'm going to have to defend that. And so there hasn't been much discussion about that because there really isn't a lot of defending your liberty scriptures. The truths and the concepts are there, but they're not overt because that was not the setting in the New Testament.
Right.
So, but it's there.
Oh, it's there.
Yeah.
And it's there over and over and over. And not only because you guys, one of the blessed reasons that Mark and I have been doing the show together for months now is Mark is coming on and recording with me because it's freeing me up to write my book on the resurrection and the eschaton. And I'm at about maybe 160 pages now, but I just wrote a 16-page chapter this last weekend, and I was blown away again to come through some passages in that pertain to the resurrection, and it actually happens all across the Old Testament and the New Testament, where resurrection is a apocalyptic moment of judgment. It's not how we talk about it, but it's how the Bible talks about it. Mm-hmm. It's how Jesus talked about it. It's how Paul talks about it. It's how the Revelation talks about it. This apocalyptic moment of judgment where in Revelation 19, I think it is, but it might be 15. I'm terrible. I know where things are, but I don't know chapter and verse. The heavens are peeled back, and there's a rider on a white horse. Mm-hmm. And he's faithful and true, and he has come to destroy his enemies. So this whole notion, we're still thinking hermeneutically about St. Paul and the rights of this whole notion that Christianity is this lay down and allow yourself to be eviscerated, and lay down and allow the whole church community to be genocided because we have no rights and we should never stand up and take a stand or say anything prophetic or do anything prophetic, is not in concert with the whole keeping of the Bible. C.S. Lewis said he's a good lion, but he's not tame. When he comes, he's not going to embrace his enemies. He's not going to say, hey, you guys, if you'll come to the potluck, you bring brownies and you bring salad, and we'll work this out. When he comes, he's going to destroy his enemies. And my point for saying is not to say the church should go to blows or go to violence or begin strategizing about how to join an army. That has nothing to do with it. My point is that this passive, servile, facile, silly, blank reading of the scriptures is so unfaithful to the whole sweep of the scriptures.
Yes.
The book of Genesis starts out as a declaration of war against all the false gods, and it's there at the very end of the book of Revelation. And when Jesus came in his ministry, one of the first things he did was start casting out demons. Again, he wasn't trying to love them or befriend them or get the demons to repent. He was casting them out.
Yeah.
And I just don't, I think that whole way to look at Scripture, which means how Christians then look at reality, is entirely lost.
I picture when Paul says, slaves obey your masters. this isn't a concept of just laying over and giving up. It's a statement that says, not that they agree with slavery, but they say there's a better way than starting an army. We are going to be the leaven that leavens the whole lump of dough society at a certain point, and we're going to do it through the Spirit of Christ.
Yep.
That does not mean don't have a fighting spirit. And when I say fighting spirit, I don't mean violence, but I mean a fighting spirit. We're waging war. We are in a war. And so when slaves obey your masters, it simply said, this is the way that we're going to do this.
Right.
We disagree and think it's wrong to have slavery, but he's not gathering Christians to go to war against Rome to display that. And so there was a wiser way of doing it that did not represent, though, passivity, the rejection of a fighting spirit. And so I think
good.
You do need a fighting spirit.
He is saying, because Jesus does the same thing, I'll get to that. When Paul's telling them, slaves, obey your masters, he's saying, because you answer to a higher power.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You are answering a higher power than your master.
Yeah.
Your master may not get that, but you do.
Mm-hmm.
When Jesus says turn the other cheek, he's not saying lay down and let him just stomp the hell out of you. Yeah. He's saying, actually, your posture is the recognition that you serve God, not that dude.
Yes, yes.
And I think, again, even when we see Jesus before Herod and Pilate, particularly Pilate, the notion that Jesus is just going, hey, you're a politician, so I'm going to kiss your is not what's going on in those situations. Yeah. He doesn't overtly fight back, but he also doesn't acquiesce. Because why? Because Jesus knows he's answering to a higher power.
That's good.
But in the doing of that, he's not saying to Pilate, it's true, your power is absolute. That's not what's going on.
Yes.
But the nuance of that is so lost on people.
It is.
I mean, if I wasn't retired and a podcaster and writing a book on the resurrection, I would write a book like there haven't been a million written on Christians in the political realm and how we should think about this and go about this. Those books have all been written and people need to study them. But how we go about this is just not what the church is used to thinking about. God bless evangelicals. I'm one, and I'm grateful for evangelicals, and I'm grateful for the gospel. But when the principalities and powers say, hey, we truly mean to genocide you. This was just a flashpoint in St. Paul. Well, how do we know they mean to do? Because in the 20th century, they did it 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times where they genocided the Christians. We could probably, if you throw the Middle East in there, that count would go up to 18 or 24 real fast, where the church just got genocided into non-existence, right? Yeah. So we know these flashpoints are representative of something. So what do we do then? Yeah. Well, for starters, I said this in my post when I was putting up about this, we talk about things that matter with people who care.
Yeah.
I keep coming back to what you've said for months on my show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do I have all the answers? No.
Yeah.
Do I want to talk and think with people who can help us get over the target a little better? Yes. Mm-hmm. Do I want to put my head in the clouds? No.
Yeah.
Do I want to be complacent? Yeah. No. Do I want to be nice? I mean, I don't mean to be on a long bender here, but you and I were laughing about, well, those Christians, that church in St. Paul probably deserve what they got because they weren't nice.
They weren't nice. Yes, yes. There's an idea of maintaining an image as a Christian of being nice, as if, and you'd mentioned that they'll be inspired and they'll want to join the team. They'll want to come to Christ because, wow, everybody's nice.
Yeah.
And it sounds great in theory, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So
they'll want to sign up.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they want to be with the nice team? We're the nice team.
I picture a leftist kicks you in the shins, and then you kicked him back, and he gives you a lecture on civility. And it's absurd. But what he's really telling you is stay in your lane, keep the peace.
Yep.
Don't make waves.
Yep.
and above all, be harmless, and it'll so inspire me.
Yep.
Be harmless.
That's so good.
You know.
And I want to take this out to the meta level again.
Yeah.
This thing in St. Paul. We may have talked on this on the last show. I can't remember, but what's really going on with all this immigration stuff is that illegal immigration and legal immigration, but largely illegal immigration, is a means to an end. And it's a means to power because it's a means to tipping certain jurisdictions in favor of blue Democrats. Minnesota used to be a swing state. It was like Oregon. My whole life I grew up in Oregon, and this governor would be Republican and that governor would be Democrat, and it just went back and forth every time because it was a swing state. And Minnesota was like that forever too, until the very clever Barack Obama brought in 80,000 Somalis into one area, one specific area, to flip the whole state to a blue state.
Wow.
And the reason there's such anger and such ferocity, because it's almost a spiritual ferocity to the anti-ICE thing, to the getting in Christians' faces. Now we're interrupting church services. Now we're cheering on the death of people who are confronting ICE agents who are conducting or the arrests of criminals, right?
Yeah.
All of that is because the very power base of a leftist progressive worldview is at stake by rooting out illegal immigrants.
Yes. Yeah.
That is the game. This is about money, all of these billions of dollars of fraud in Minnesota, and we're going to find out it's in every 50 state. You and I went to a meeting a couple weeks ago. We know what's going on in Idaho.
Yeah.
All of this is a means to leverage and power, and the powers are not going to go quietly.
Yeah.
While we start pulling wisdom teeth to rectify the infection in everyone's mouth.
Yes.
And God bless illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
Right? I worked in a construction company for 3 years. The whole crew was illegals, and they were the best guys. I loved them. I thought of them as my guys. I enjoyed eating with them and laughing with them and working with them and doing business together with them. But the system of illegal immigration has been utterly wicked, what it has done to the nation.
It reminds me of the trans movement. I mean, what percentage really is that? But it's a leverage. It's a fulcrum. It's a means. I think it's very similar to Ukraine. We focus on Ukraine, but it is a leverage, a fulcrum against Russia.
Right.
It's a proxy. And in a proxy war, you've got things where you're going to delineate Christians, morality, conservatives against and start the warfare going. Do they care about these people? No, but it's they can be used in the theater, in the system.
And we know they don't care because they're positively angry that Trump wants to end that war.
Yes.
That's the weirdest thing to me, is to see the Democrats now be the pro-war party. It's like, wait just a second here.
Yeah.
Let's care about Ukrainians, and let's care about Russians, and let's care about all of Europe, and let's maybe end that war. And then they just go whack-a-doodle nutso that he's talking about trying to end that war. It's like, okay, that's also a tell, right?
It is. And
but maybe that notion of proxies is a good entree to think about niceness, which is...
Yeah. I was looking up the idea of nice. Galatians 5:22 gives the fruit of the Spirit. Nice isn't in there.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's not in there.
I thought, man, I was certain that Paul said, here's what Christ wants from you, nice, and then he lists off all these fruits that flow out of nice.
I was so surprised it wasn't in there, but I did find kind. And there's a delineation, and we'll have to talk about that, but there's a delineation between nice and kind. I've looked up in vain to see God described as nice.
Wow.
He's not. It doesn't describe him. It describes him as kind.
Yeah.
It uses that. I think there's a theory out there about the cross, where the cross made a angry, wrathful God into a nice God. And there's this idea, but actually, no, he's still holy and capable of wrath, and he's also full of grace. But you can't mix those two and make nice. And I think people want a nice God. They want a nice, harmless one, predictable. As C.S. Lewis said, they're not looking for a father, they're looking for a grandfather, a nice, warm, harmless, predictable grandfather.
Wow.
But he's not. He never will be. So he will be very kind, but he will not be nice in the sense that there's no aspect of him that's holy, that's just... sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Tanya and I were talking,
Yeah.
because I like your distinction between nice and kind. And when I told her that you and I were going to talk about this topic, she said, think of nice as an affect. So nice is how we appear to one another. Nice is the pleasant, legitimately pleasant face that we put on with respect to one another. Nice is how I carry myself at work. Nice is how I'm acting in a crowd at a rock concert or a basketball game. I'm being nice. But kindness is an action.
It's an action. I like
right?
that. Yeah.
So that I can have the affect of nice, and everyone can, this is to credit Tanya again, I can have the affect of nice, but actually be doing ruthless things. I could be actually not kind in my affect of nice.
That's good.
So that nice can be a cover, probably most of the time unwittingly, for more deviant, destructive, corrosive things that will entrench themselves over the course of years.
Yes. A lot of things actually cowardly, dishonest, in the name of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a definition of nice being agreeable, pleasant, or polite. Now, you're with a stranger and you're just chatting, be nice. But if you're dealing in higher stakes where you need to defend somebody or a situation or justice or morality or various things, sometimes it can be a compromise. It's not always the wrong thing, but it needs to be with courage, with honesty. And a lot of times when people choose nice, they choose not to have those things.
Well, let me just take your definition and put it into our recent example. So the nice thing at that church in St. Paul would be that all the parishioners sat down and just let the agitators chant endlessly and shame them. But the Christians could sit there and smile and be pleasant and not, right? But in the end, that's actually not kind, because it enables more agitators to go into more churches and do the same. But it also says it's not kind because it says what we're doing here isn't very important.
Wow.
And you guys can come in and defile our sacred space, and we're actually not going to do anything about it.
Yes.
So I have a friend whose church has already thought this through, and I was surprised and grateful for his post. Thank you, Greg. Whose security team at church is under orders to escort those people out. It is not a First Amendment guarantee or protection to walk into someone's home and violate their space, nor is it any First Amendment protection to walk into a church or synagogue or mosque or Buddhist temple and go in there and agitate and wreck their worship service, right? So all of that to say, the kind thing may have been to immediately call the police, which wouldn't have done any good in St. Paul. But it might have been to have a security team who one by one escorted them out, or I don't know. There are probably lots of things that a church could have pre-planned, which I'm not one tiny bit faulting that church, because they're the flashpoint. We're all going to learn from what happened to and in and with them, right? But again, the notion that, well, the Christians just should have been nice about it, which actually they were. They were incredibly restrained, and they greatly outnumbered that mob. I mean, if you came into my home and did that, you probably get yourself a beating.
Yes.
And if the church wanted, the 100 of them could have probably beat those 30 people. They didn't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting they should have.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they were incredibly restrained.
Yeah.
But the normal person in Christianity today will think, well, their first job was to be nice. And nice is actually not anywhere on the list of how Christ is concerned what we do.
Yes. Yeah. The agitators are usually presented as bold, but part of the reason they can be supposedly bold, they presume that we have the morality to have self-control.
Right.
And it's like we can't presume that upon them.
Yeah.
We can't.
You know, one of the other things that really hit me through all this is 2 people can really cause a lot of damage. 12,000 people minding their own business won't cause hardly any damage for their existence. 2 people who are outraged or enraged or out of their minds can cause a tremendous amount of damage.
Yes.
And I don't know if these were just the best of trained agitators or the most ferocious or the most demonically possessed or all of that.
Yeah.
But what a weird thing to see human beings treating other human beings like that in a holy house of worship.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, you had more on,
on
definitions and distinctions.
Motivation of nice. It's often driven, not always, but often driven by social pressure, fear of conflict, and a desire to be liked. Is it wrong to want to be liked? No. These are all things that can potentially lean you toward compromise, though, toward timidity, toward passivity, when the situation arises where you're not just chatting with a stranger and being nice socially, where there's more at stake and more is required of you. It's you're going to have the temptation for those things. So some of the behavior, saying what others want to hear, avoiding confrontation at all costs, prioritizing harmony over honesty. Now, this isn't always the case, but there's the temptation when a person says, rather than saying, I'm going to be kind, I'm simply going to be nice.
What was that? Prioritizing
harmony over honesty.
Prioritizing harmony over honesty.
And all of those sound so nice, but there'll be situations where there'll be a compromise.
Right.
So whereas kindness is acting with genuine care, empathy, and integrity, it is rooted in a concern for others' well-being. It's speaking the truth in love.
Right.
So nice will avoid conflicts often. Kind embraces necessary conflicts when it's needed.
Yeah.
Doesn't create them. Nice tends toward people-pleasing.
Yeah.
Kind tends toward being principle-driven. So there's a different root in each one of them. And if I focus on nice, and it's interesting that the Bible puts no emphasis on it, there's going to be an ease at rationalizing passivity, timidity, cowardice, dishonesty, a lot of those
all
things.
Of those things, that's a good, quick list. And all of those things, when you give them enough room and space and time, become way worse.
Yeah.
Right? So again, when you don't deal with the agitators in a church, then you make it fair game for that to happen all over the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's lots of possible uptakes. People stop going to church.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of weird unanticipated consequences of that, right?
Yeah.
But another one is you create resentment.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because there will be resentment now all through the church. And it's going to play out in multiple different ways.
Yeah.
There'll be resentment for people who say, how come those P words didn't do anything and drive those agitators out?
Yeah.
There will be resentment. There's going to be resentment inside the Southern Baptist Convention.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. What should they have done? Because there'll be arguments inside the Southern Baptist convention over what you do in those. So
Yes.
by not taking action, and I want to be careful because I'm not one tiny bit faulting those people. It's just that it's on top of mind for everybody. By taking a passive response, by sort of a tacit acceptance of, okay, to be a Christian is to have our public space invaded. In a few years, that will be actually a looming monster that will terrify all of society.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So one unintended consequence of nice then is a brooding resentment.
That's good. I like
And
that.
we've all experienced that in our lives, right?
Yes.
All the years that I was single and going to church and young married and going to church, whenever the church needed something, I would sign up. Okay, I'll show up and do it. Because I wanted to help and I wanted to be part of the mission.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to be liked,
Yeah.
I would show up. Mark, I would show up and then I'd be mad at myself. The whole time we're doing whatever for that day,
Yeah.
I'd be mad at myself because I'm like, I do not have this kind of time.
Yeah. You capitulated.
I do not. This is worthy. I do not have this kind of time right now in my life with 3 young kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so there'd be resentment, personal resentment on my part,
Yeah.
when the whole thing would have been solved if I'd go, hey, I have to say no right now.
Yes.
I know
Wow.
that's not nice, but I got to say no right now.
Wow. It reminds me, I have a couple of things here about the consequences of prioritizing niceness, and it so reminds me of what you said. Number one, it enables harmful behavior to continue because it's not confronted. Most of niceness doesn't confront.
Right.
It avoids necessary conflict. Sometimes there's conflict needed for growth, for discussion, for resolution, and you get resentments, you get poor decisions, you get unresolved issues because you don't deal with it. Let's just gloss this over in the name of niceness.
Right.
It doesn't get taken care of.
Yep.
The thing in Minneapolis, maybe nothing gets taken care of until it gets further and further kicked down the road, and people are going to have a resolve and say, what are we going to do to be able to stand up to this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's a daily reality.
Betraying your values, being nice at the expense of your integrity. Somebody has a crass joke and you laugh at it. Well, I laughed at it because I just wanted him comfortable. I wanted to be nice. But it's betraying my values. Sometimes that you can't do that.
Yeah.
It undermines trust. If I think that this person is going to just flatter me, he's going to tell me what I want to hear, not what I need to hear. And I'm in a tough situation that I really need a good evaluation of my behavior, my actions. I'm not going to go to that person because I'm like, I know what they're going to do. They're a real nice person, but they're going to tell me what I want to hear. I'm going to go to somebody else that's going to tell me what I need to hear.
Yep.
So it can actually betray trust.
And that's so subtle.
That is.
It's so subtle, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a kind of thing that's a pattern of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Where I go to certain people and not other people.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, C.S. Lewis, in way of thinking, all these little decisions add up to how our soul, our character gets shaped.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I can look back at a lot of my life. There's been times there's too much, I don't know if I'd put it on the level of cowardice, but nobody wants to be persecuted. And so I think of when Peter, when he gave that sermon, they were cut to the quick. They were pierced to the heart. When Stephen spoke and they stoned him, they were pierced to the heart. It'd be easier.
Hey, guys, home ownership is one of the most important elements in a functional society. And done right, home ownership is a time-proven way to move toward financial success. Taking care of your home produces a certain disposition, a described lifestyle, because there's an attention to detail, there's pride of ownership, there's a industry, it comes with problem solving, and all that enhances one's own sense of agency. And we do better with our homes when we treat each task with excellence. So if you live in Southern California and you need your roof repaired and replaced, don't hire some floozy contractor. Hire a pro. Get the job done with skill and professionalism. I recommend Gallerini Roofing. Give them a call at 714-244-6567. They've been in business for decades. They can do residential, commercial. They're licensed and insured. They have tons of experience. They have outstanding integrity. Give Gallerini Roofing a call at 714-244-6567.
I think about when Peter gave the sermon, they were pierced to the heart. When Stephen spoke, they were cut to the quick. The two things that those remind me of, when they spoke, it was penetrating. And the more penetrating is, the more risks you're taking of anger and wrong reactions. I remember talking with somebody, and we only had 30 seconds, but I wanted to say something, and I wound up saying I go to church, and they kind of left saying, Mark's such a nice young man. He goes to church and all. What a nice young man. Well, that was great. Is that a testimony when they're going to come to Christ? Probably not. I'm not going to be not nice, but I want to be penetrating sometimes. And sometimes when you're penetrating, people won't assign you the role of a person being nice.
Right.
Oh, he convicted me. He confronted me. He challenged me. He questioned my decisions. So I don't agree with Mark, and I don't even think he's a nice person.
Right.
And I'm like, I just.
There are those negatives, but there are also the positives. Like he brought me a bag of food.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yes.
Will I embarrass them if I take them a bag of food?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So nice, either way, back and forth can cause you to lose your voice. It can cause you to lose your... sure wasn't nice of Peter to look the authorities in the eye.
Yeah.
Sure wasn't nice of Stephen to call those guys out.
Yes.
So being nice would have cost them their voice.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually think that is part of why Christians aren't persecuted that much in America. They're harmless in many ways because they've chosen nice.
Right.
I like that scripture, 2 Timothy 3:12. There's two ways to say it. All those who desire to live godly in Christ Jesus will be thought of as very nice people. Or will suffer persecution. I have the option, and nice really sounds better. It's not as penetrating. It's not as effective. I don't have to be forthright and tactless and confrontive all the time in the way that I share.
Right.
Do it with grace.
Right.
Do it with a winsomeness, but I don't want to walk away saying that my highest priority is that they'll say, Mark's such a nice young man.
Yeah.
He goes to church.
Yeah. I was thinking along these lines, one way to control Christians is to tell them not to gossip. Now, who's in favor of gossip? The scriptures never are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But when that gets said, it will be said like, if you talk about this, you're being wicked. So by me telling you about what happened at St. Paul over the weekend, is that gossip or is that recounting the facts, right?
Yes.
So if gossip is to retell the story in a way to tear down someone's character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To malign someone, to spread ill will about someone. But if I'm talking about the thing that happened as such, that's not gossip.
Yeah.
Some agitators walked in the church, started yelling at church parishioners, interrupted a church service. That's not gossip.
That's not gossip, yes.
Right? Some agitators went in and were shaming Christians, and that was an evil thing to do. Well, that's not gossip.
Yeah.
I'm not going to their heart.
You're not trying to malign them.
I'm not calling anyone's name out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but I think a lot of times that nice and gossip sandwich, like an Oreo cookie,
yes,
is a great way to make Christians shut the glonk up.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because if you're not being nice, obviously, and B, you're being a gossip.
Yes.
So that's a double-barreled shotgun of a way to shut people down.
Yes. If you watch the reaction when somebody isn't mad or upset or against Christians or against you, and all of a sudden they become that way, I'm going to evaluate: did I stumble them legitimately,
Right.
or did I stumble them by sharing truth, by standing up,
Right.
by confronting
Wow.
something, by whatever?
That's a huge
And
one.
it's I can see that it would be very tempting to say, what would be nice is if the church is just thought of as nice. There really won't be much persecution. I think
Right.
sometimes that's in the background. It's just
Huge.
safer to lay low, stay in the lane, be harmless,
I'm
and
afraid so.
be a nice young man that goes to church.
Yep. I'm afraid
There
so.
probably won't be any persecution. Yeah.
I'm afraid that's a powerful one.
Yeah. Yeah. So we need to choose kind, because kindness will care for the person and tell them what they need to hear.
Right.
Kind will do what's right. Kind, when it needs to, will confront, defend,
Right.
contend, challenge.
Imagine if you raised your kid with your overarching disposition being nice.
Yeah.
Hey, honey, would you go change Timmy's diaper? He pooped his pants. Well, honey, first off, we shouldn't call it poop. And second off, I'll embarrass him if I change his diaper. He shouldn't know that he pooped his pants, because that's embarrassing to poop your pants. So no, I think we'll just leave him in his poopified state. Right? It's like everything about that is insane.
It is.
And morally broken.
Yeah.
And you're going to produce a psychotic mess of a person.
How about a parent that says, you talk with the child, child's an absolute brat, a monster, and he says to you, my favorite parent is my dad. He's a nicer parent.
Yep.
What would you think?
Yep.
Is he the good one?
Yep.
He's probably the one that doesn't discipline the child. He's the one that's creating the monster because he's so nice.
And your kid will figure it out so fast. You guys, when Tanya and I were raising our kids, my kids would go to Tanya for money, which they wouldn't get much out of me.
Yeah.
But if they wanted to do something, they'd come and ask me, not Tanya.
They'll figure it out.
Those little
they'll figure it out.
people
Yes.
figured out which way to go, right? They're clever.
Wow. The nice parent is the one in the kid's eyes that he doesn't realize is destroying him.
Yeah.
If nice means let's avoid discipline.
Merciful God.
Yeah.
Think of all the divorced homes where the kid was given the option. Oh my goodness, where they could choose which parent they would go, and they chose the nice parent. And they just chose decades of heartache for themselves.
Yes.
Oh, wow. I can't even go there. It's too upsetting.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't welcome. I think people innately want to hear what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. And so they're looking for nice people. People are looking for nice friends.
Yeah.
And we just had in a Bible study, it was great because we, one of the gals, a lot of wisdom, said, kind of tweak something I said. And afterwards it said, I hope you weren't uncomfortable. And I'm like, no, this is what I want. Talk about things that matter with people that care. Have somebody in your life that isn't about nice. You would have just let it roll over, but you mentioned it very graciously.
Yeah.
Hey, you might want to think about it this way, Mark. And I look at that as kind.
Yeah.
She was kind.
That's good.
Yeah.
And that's a good
It was a good
example
thing.
from your own life, right?
Yeah.
Another one that
Yeah.
I came
Oh.
across when I
Yeah.
was thinking about this is that nice people, this lady online was saying, her name's Heidi Gustafson. She said nice people live off of guilt, and they're easy to guilt. And it
wow.
especially hit me again because my default, I was just telling a friend at the golf course the other day, growing up Pentecostal, my default was if I'm not sure how to process, just assume that you're guilty. Grew up under a real strong kind of legalist preacher. And that notion of guilt is inside of Christian circles a profound way to manipulate people.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
So and again, that's what those guys were doing at the church. Sorry, keep coming it back to St. Paul, but they were shouting at those Christians, "You have a suit on. You should be ashamed. A real Christian wouldn't wear a suit. You should sell your suit and give it to an immigrant," right?
Yeah.
Like those protesters had ever done one nice thing for an immigrant, like they were like had they ever let an immigrant come live in their house or give them a bowl of soup. But that's not the way they're thinking. Their thinking is you're against taxation that should go to immigrants. That's how that process is, right?
Yes.
But
yeah.
that notion, that guilt, that if you're not nice, you're guilty, I'm telling you, is deep inside of Christianity. And they can play on if they play on our compassion, which you and I've talked about many times, they play on our guilt.
Yeah.
And that one goes really deep, and it will strip people again of their agency.
Yes.
It'll strip them of their voice.
Wow. All the more to be able to delineate wisely the virtues and the concepts of the Scripture, because there's a lot of different kinds of lies out there, but a common one is just to tweak the idea of various virtues.
Yeah.
I mean, look at compassion. Oh my gosh, talk about one that gets misused.
Yeah.
Talk about one that gets misused so much. Just unity, just love, forgiveness. You've got all these things, and
you're so divisive.
It's just so easy to manipulate people that with guilt, with whatever. You're not doing this. It really is so important to be wise in this. Saying, what's the difference? I mentioned that before one time. There's a difference between giving and enabling. But if you don't know the difference, you're going to be manipulated.
Right.
You're going to be manipulated.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. I picture, I think there's a compromise so many times in this where you just want to keep the peace. And that sounds so good. That's another virtue, peace.
Right.
There's false peace out there. So here's a child screaming for candy. And the parent says, "Honey, just give him a bowl of candy. I want peace in the house." And what was it? I'm deciding for my own comfort versus their growth. And a lot of times I look back at very convicted where I'm saying, I went the nice route. I needed to share something, speak the truth in love. I could have said it very graciously, but I'm evaluating and saying, they probably won't receive this anyway. And I was nice.
Yeah, man, that's a vivid one for me because that candy one. I talked a show or two ago about being at the checkout line at Walmart and feeling bad for people because of what they were buying. I distinctly remember being a parent and my kids throwing a tantrum at the checkout line because they couldn't get whatever candy was right there, right? And how horrifying that is as a parent, because you don't want to discipline your kid in front of everybody. You barely want to shout at them anymore. So you're caught in the crosshairs of this emotional scene in front of people. I've gone up to parents who held their ground in that situation and said, "Way to go, Mom and Dad."
Yeah, that's good.
I've seen it happen at the checkout stand where the kid's pitching a fit and you're like, "Oh man, I have been there, done that."
Yeah.
And when they hold their ground, I've gone up to them and said, "Listen, I'm a grandpa. I'm so proud of you for holding your ground. That's so hard, but you can't give in that situation or they will own you."
They'll own you. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. No. It's there's a lot of phrases. Stay in your lane, keep the peace, don't make waves. And of course, don't do those unnecessarily
or
clumsily. But it's a focus mainly on niceness is going to produce that. There's going to be that temptation.
No, that's really true.
Yeah, focus on kindness. Do what I need to do. Am I kind enough to tell him what he needs to hear?
Yeah.
Am I kind enough to say, we need to stop this behavior? Whatever.
Right.
You know.
And you know what? Again, maybe to bring it full circle,
Yeah.
in my life, I'm grateful for people who are nice.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
You and I aren't picking up this topic today to demonize nice. What we're saying is nice can be turned and used against us. Nice is this thing that makes society more pleasant, but there's a really nasty underbelly to it, or underbellies, because there are different double-edged blades to it that end up making things worse, not better, while we're all putting on a smiley face of nice.
Yes. Yeah, so obviously, I'm glad you mentioned that. We're not going to go the route of meanness. Instead, what are the alternatives?
Right.
We're mainly saying there are caricatures, there are rationalizations that are quite possible when you focus on this, that are very tempting.
Right.
To avoid conflict that's needed, confrontation, anything that just keeps the peace.
Yeah.
That can be very cowardly.
Yeah.
And so I plan on being a nice person.
Me too.
But I'm aware if I focus on that as the highest priority rather than kindness,
Right.
there's going to be a temptation
Right.
to rationalize
And
certain
I like
things.
what you said earlier, because it really helps drive the point home. Nice doesn't show up anywhere in the gifts, in the fruit of the Spirit.
For the Spirit, yes.
There's all kinds of things that may possibly touch on nice, but nice is nowhere to be found in fruit of the Spirit.
Yes.
And nice is never used once of God
Of God, yes.
in the Scriptures.
Wow. Yes, that's significant.
So,
Yeah.
Mark, thanks for coming on with the Uncensored Unprofessor with me. Thanks for thinking
You're
about
welcome.
such
Enjoyed
a
this.
important thing. It's
It is.
at one level it seems so facile or so juvenile, but
Yes.
at another level it's about as deep as it goes where our society is right now.
It is. Yes. We need people that are honest and bold.
Yeah.
And this exposes so much stuff.
Well, thanks again.
You're welcome.
You guys, until next week, everyone go and turn on your beautiful God-given brains.